Oh boy, what have we just witnessed yet again? This FIFA World Cup continues to amaze in the best ways possible, and today we have seen yet another big upset. Uruguay, by the way, in case you're just joining us, and in case you weren't watching the group H round of FIFA World Cup final round group stage matches, Uruguay have been eliminated despite winning their final group stage game, but that is just the weird and wonderful nature of the FIFA World Cup. You can win your games, and in fact, it will not often be enough. Hello, Aman Thakur. Thank you for joining us. So let's quickly just go over a summary of what it is that both teams needed, or rather, all teams needed, and what is it that actually ended up happening. So before the game, the situation was simple. Portugal had already qualified, which meant that there was one spot up left for grabs and three teams competing for it. For South Korea, they needed the improbable. They needed to beat Portugal and also hope that either Uruguay would beat Ghana or that there would be a draw between Uruguay and Ghana. Ghana, by the way, had the easiest equation possible. All they needed was a draw to seal their spot in the next round. Uruguay, on the other hand, needed to beat Ghana, but also hoped that Portugal would take some points off South Korea. Well, guess what happened? In the World Cup of upsets, there was yet another upset. South Korea defeated a Portugal side, albeit one that was very much a second string side that was put out and also had a lot of their stars taken off in the second half. But still, win is a win. Can't take that credit away from South Korea. They beat Portugal 2-1 thanks to a late goal from Wang Hee-chan, who, by the way, is not even been getting a game in recent times for his Premier League club Wolves, but stood up and stepped up for his team, his national team, when it mattered the most. South Korea were 1-1 up until that point because remember, Portugal had taken an early lead courtesy of Ricardo Horta, and then they had equalized. Also, South Korea, they had equalized in the 27th minute, if I'm not wrong. And in fact, then what happened was that Portugal kind of sat back, they took off a lot of their star players. South Korea found a winner right at the end, courtesy of an assist from Heung-min Son. It was Wang Hee-chan who ended up getting them the victory. And that threw the other match into total disarray, which in itself, by the way, we deserve a lot. It deserves a bit of time because it was a chaotic match in the best way possible. It was football drama at its peak. Remember, Ghana versus Uruguay was billed as this big revenge match for Ghana because again, 2010 Uruguay had knocked them out of the World Cup semi-finals in very controversial circumstances. You'd remember there was that Suarez handball, the missed penalty, all that drama. And then what goes and happens today? Ghana get a penalty and Ghana missed the penalty. I don't understand what is it with Ghana and taking penalties against Uruguay that just seems to kind of do something to them. But again, it was, and ironically, it was Andre Ayew, who was the only member of the current squad, the current Ghanaian squad, who was part of the squad all the way back in 2010. The last remaining member of that squad who carried that hurt for all those years, stepped up to take the penalty. It was a script for the ages, and then he ended up missing it anyway. Oh well, and then what happens is that Uruguay get two goals, but the entire match's complexion changed once South Korea scored that goal, what turned out to be the winner against Portugal. Because Uruguay knew at that point that with South Korea winning, they didn't stand a chance of going through for the very simple reason that the goal difference, they were both level, but South Korea had scored more goals, and due to that, they finished the game, the group second. Imagine, it was that close that it came down not just to goal difference, but also who scored more goals. So in that sense, it was in fact South Korea who progressed through. It's heartbreak in many ways for Uruguay, but if you are not a fan of either Liverpool or Barcelona, I refuse to believe you wouldn't have had at least the smallest of smiles on your faces when you saw those visuals of Luis Suarez being distraught. I mean, I know everyone in the sports today is to a newsroom here was laughing because again, none of us here are Liverpool fans or Barcelona fans, so no love lost when it comes to Luis Suarez, but you have to feel in some ways for Uruguay as well. I mean, they did their bit, they got the win, they got a decent dominating win on the day. Unfortunately for them, what happened then was that South Korea decided that we, in fact, are going to be the ones going through. It's not going to be any other team. So if you're keeping count, that means that there are now two teams from Africa. You have, don't forget, Morocco and Senegal, who are through to the round of 16. And now you have two Asian teams as well. You have, of course, South Korea, who qualified today. You had Japan, who had qualified yesterday, who actually did something even more improbable by topping a group that, in fact, featured the likes of Spain and Germany. Anyway, that's enough talk about the match. I'll quickly take a few of your comments because they are flowing in. Actually, it's just one comment which has been coming in constantly. Seems to be a habit. Sarachandra Yalamarthi is asking, why was Suarez out? He wasn't. He started the match, but Suarez, you have to remember, is no longer the same player that he was maybe 4 years back. Clearly, injuries and everything has in fact taken a toll on him. So he was substituted off, as Muba correctly points out. He was taken off in the 60th odd minute. He was taken off. Cavani was brought in, another striker who, by the way, in his prime could run circles around everyone, but obviously age has caught up with him a tad. So that's why Suarez was on the bench and not affecting the game as he should. Although, to be fair, Suarez did pretty much everything that was asked of him. He was there. In fact, he had the assist for both of, the goals that were scored. So Suarez, to be fair, did his bit. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough. Anish clearly points out that Son Heung-min, when it mattered the most, gave that crucial assist. Yeah, I would venture out on a limb here and say that he's probably too good to be playing for Spurs. He should probably leave them. And Deepak R says that there's absolutely no favorite in the round of 16. Any team can get beaten in this World Cup. You know what? I would normally say that's a bit of a sports cliche, but really, so far this World Cup, the amount of upsets we've seen, I am totally banking on at least one of these teams, whether it be Japan or Morocco or South Korea or even Senegal, actually making a run to at least the semi-finals. And as Suyash Baranwal points out, there's been so many thrills and upsets in this World Cup. Wholeheartedly agree with you, Suranj. And Muba says that there's 2 Asian teams in the knockouts. That's always good. Yes, so glad representing for the continent. Again, as we're all fans of football who are based in Asia, it's always nice to see Asian teams do well. Anish says that I just want Cameroon to beat Brazil. It would be more interesting. You know what, man? Don't forget, if we thought that, one team qualifying for the knockout rounds means that the stakes in the other matches won't be as high, well, this round of matches, the last round of matches in Group H, definitively proved otherwise. It was crazy because it seemed like for the longest of times that Uruguay would be the team who would in fact be qualifying for the knockout. South Korea scored that goal from out of nowhere, and suddenly the equation changed. So because of that, well, Dex points out an interesting thing. He says, I think that Cavani chance was a penalty. You know what? When I first saw it, even I thought it was. But then when I looked at the replays, it was pretty clear that it was just a coming together. There was no intention from the defender to clatter Cavani, and Cavani kind of ran into him looking to earn the penalty. So, good attempt from Cavani. Not going to take away the gamesmanship, but I don't think it was a penalty, and I think it was right that it wasn't given. Anyway, if you're just joining us, the breaking news is that Uruguay are out despite having beaten Ghana 2-0 in their final group stage game. The reason that's the case is because South Korea beat Portugal amazingly 2-1. So due to that, suddenly there's been even more upsets taking place. South Korea beating Portugal, literally no one would have predicted that happening, but it did happen, and that means that South Korea also through to the knockouts. Don't forget, there's another round of matches that's coming your way at 12:30 a.m. IST. Join us after the match for that. We'll be going live and discussing that match thereafter. But again, thank you guys all so much for joining us for this particular video. Please don't forget to show us your love by liking the video, sharing it with your friends, subscribing to the channel, tap that bell icon, leave us a comment which is your favorite moment of both of these matches. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Last but not least, don't forget to download the SportsTak app. You can watch all of the FIFA World Cup highlights on the app free of charge. You can get it in either English or Hindi, and you can also see whether it be goal-by-goal assists or full match highlights. So what are you waiting for? Download it, watch the highlights, and don't forget to actually read some of the interesting content that the wonderful folks in the app are putting out. Thank you all for joining us for now. I will see you again later tonight. For now, though, goodbye.